Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the Essays and Espresso podcast. Here with me, as always, are my veritable hosts. Boken, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine.
And Acer, what's up?
I'm cool.
Today we're going to be doing a spoiler cast on Naoki Urasawa's Monster, the 74-episode anime series. So, unfortunately, if you've never seen the show, you should probably tune out this one. Unless you don't care about being spoiled, but then, you're just ruining the show for yourself. And this is, unlike the last one we talked about, a show actually worth watching. So,
hey now, Code Geass was pretty good. We all agreed. We all had fun with it, I find.
We sure had fun.
We sure did have fun. But anyways, this time we're going to be talking about Monster. So now's your chance to dip out on spoilers. We're going to be talking about the show at length. So,
they probably know that just by watching the thumbnail.
Probably, but I just wanted to give people the heads up just in case. Be like, hey, this is a good show worth watching.
You could probably just have a black screen with text in the beginning which says that.
No, I mean, again, I just want to make it clear to people, because I'm sure some people listen to the Code Geass one, not caring about, watching the show ever, and they just listen to it just to hear us, talk shit about it. But for this one, this is a show that's definitely worth watching. I want to press that upon people, so...
Yeah, okay.
It's pretty long, 74 episodes, but it is worth it. It's definitely a really good show. I think everyone here would agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah, you especially. I was actually... Because you were acting like a dick before. You were like, Monster's fucking boring. And then you suddenly turn around, you watched it twice in a row. You 180'd the show so hard.
You watched it twice in the time it took me to watch it once.
No, I watched it twice in the time it took you to watch the latter half. I didn't begin watching it until you were in episode 30.
I guess.
So, let's give a quick rundown of what the show is about. So, the show mainly
it's about a man pretending to be a doctor. Remember that funny joke of mine?
You feel bad about that now, don't you? I don't even know where you came up with that.
I don't even get it. Why is he pretending to be a doctor?
I had recalled him being a fake doctor.
The first thing he does is do a surgery, and everyone tells you, "Wow, he's the best surgeon we've ever seen."
How do you fake that?
I watched the show a year ago, so I didn't have a good recollection of how things happened. So I thought he was just a fake doctor, and I kept pressing that because I thought it was a funny joke.
Anyways, so Tenma, the main character, is this brilliant neurosurgeon.
The titular monster? No,
I don't think so. We'll get into that later. So basically, under a series of circumstances, he finds himself trying to take a bullet out of a little boy's head named Johan. After he saves Johan, Johan then turns around and becomes a serial killer. And the show is basically Tenma trying to track down Johan because he feels that he's responsible for bringing back Johan into this world and causing all this chaos.
Yes.
So, I wanted to ask Boken because you went into the show complete, because I'd at least seen the show beforehand. Acer had seen a little bit of it beforehand. You went into it completely blind, so I'm kind of curious how you felt about it going into it and then seeing it through the end.
I loved it. I specifically like a lot of slow shows, and I knew this was going to be it. And
Yes.
then when I realized the emotional beats also started to work for me, and just few episodes, especially the one that Asa kept crying about, where he learns how to shoot a gun. And, and like
I still
Asa
hate
always
that
pretended,
episode.
oh, it's like 5 episodes long and it's so boring. And then it was 1 episode long and it was incredibly emotional. And
It's a great episode.
yeah, it's a wonderful episode. And I was
No.
like, this is probably a show for me. And then it kept up that level at least and got better in some respects. So yeah, that totally worked for me. What I was most surprised by was that this show takes place in Germany. And it's like an extremely accurate depiction of Germany.
For those of you who don't know, Boken is actually from Germany.
Whoa.
Oh,
That shouldn't be
Wow.
news to anyone.
I would have never assumed based on how he was talking. But I was really amused watching the show, and you were chiming in with, "Oh, this is super good," and then the show would show like most of the stuff that was in writing. You were like, the German here is not that good."
Well,
So that was very amusing to me.
That was the writing in German it had some mistakes, but German is a pretty complex and difficult language, so I can forgive that easily. But especially compared to something like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, which is just gibberish whenever they have German on screen. This was like 95% there at all times, and
Oh,
the text they were showing were not easy text. Like those were profiles of serial killers and,
Yeah, see-
and news articles and all that, and then it had like difficult tenses, difficult grammar in there. They got most of that right, which really surprised me.
And wasn't it also a case of the times where it was wrong, it was sometimes just the scribblings of a clearly demented mind. So you can kind of go, this guy's just crazy.
Well, no. Some,
Crazy people
as I said,
write
some
poorly.
had somewhere like serial killer, biographies and all that, and then
Oh,
there
yeah.
were mistakes in there. Like some professional policeman wrote that.
Probably just shit at grammar.
But then on the other hand, the names were probably where it fucked up the most, because a lot of the names they sound German, but no one would actually be called that, especially surnames. The
I
first
remember
names are
you-
fine, but yeah.
I remember you were making fun of Lunge. He's like, this guy is literally Mr. Lung.
Yeah. Do you know a single person that is called Lung?
No,
I assume
I
not.
can't say that I do.
Ugh.
I mean, to my untrained ear, though, Lunge sounds cool. But
Sure.
to you, it's probably just like, no, it's fucking Lung, you dumbass.
To me, it sounds like you're called Mr. Milk or something.
So, what I believe that one of the show's greatest strengths is its characters. I think the story, of course, is really cool and interesting. But I was consistently surprised by how well written the characters were. Like, even characters that you only know for like maybe an episode or two. They were characters that you really grew to like empathize with and really care about.
Are you
And I
talking
was
about
really-
Richard?
Richard is one of them. Also Martin, the guy that acted
Oh,
as
yeah.
Ava's bodyguard. Like Martin especially kind of took me by surprise because he was kind of an asshole, but like they managed to give him like so much personality that like regardless of some of the things that he did that were pretty fucked up, just like punching people to protect Ava. Even
I
when
love that scene. I love that scene in the train where the guy's talking to Ava and he just starts smacking the shit out of him. He's like a brick wall, just
Especially because the
destroying
guy
this
was-
guy.
He was just some elderly, like 60-year-old man who was talking to Eva.
Yeah,
and,
like
and
that
he's
was
like
so
2 meters
over the
tall
top.
and built like a tank, just destroying the guy.
And then he beats the shit out of Tenma too.
Yes.
It felt kind of good though when he was about to beat up Tenma again. Tenma was like, "No, not this time." He brought out the gun, and I was like, "Okay, good job, Tenma." Don't get beat up again.
Yeah, speaking of the gun, that's something I'm gonna talk about later when we're done talking about the characters.
Why are you fixating on the gun?
Because I think that this story is so European it would fall apart immediately when you put it in an American setting, because just about anybody, like just by happenstance, some pedestrian would just shoot Johan. I just think it's interesting. I think it's interesting.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's what happens at the end of the show.
There are a lot of policemen.
Yeah, but they had
Germany.
to work in an excuse for how the guy got the gun.
See, I don't think that's necessarily true because, well, first of all, there are illegal guns in Germany and especially in what is it called? In the Czech Republic.
Czechoslovakia. Now, isn't it Czechoslovakia still in the show?
No, it takes place in the 90s.
Oh.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Although I'm not sure when that actually changed. I assume when the Soviet Republic fell apart, but maybe there was some delay. I don't know.
The Germans refer to it as the Soviet Republic. You know, I found my great-grandmother passed away the other day, and when they were going through a box of her stuff, they found some newspaper clippings where it was like pictures of her children. And I was flipping through them, and on the back of one of those pictures, I saw an article where they were talking about the Soviet Republic, the Soviet Union, and the ass-kissery of, like, they were talking about Stalin and the great works that he had done, and it was like, what the it was written in the 70s. Like, Icelandic journalists were kissing the communists' asses in the 70s. It was really weird, but yeah, anyway.
Anyway, the point being that policemen have guns, criminals have guns, Martin has a gun, Richard has a gun. There are enough guns in the show that they could
Richard have a
get
gun?
Johan. I'm pretty sure he does.
I don't think he does.
I think he does.
Martin did not have a gun.
He didn't want to use a gun. I don't think Richard had a gun. I think that's kind of...
Sure.
He had a gun in a flashback about his
but
ex-girlfriend.
he was no longer a you mean Martin?
The bodyguard.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to
Richard-
carry guns.
Richard, I think the point is that if he had a gun, why didn't he just shoot Johan on the roof?
Because he was emotionally distraught and Johan was getting to him.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Also, he's not
Johan
an
is
asshole.
Johan is a manipulator.
Yeah, and like even if Martin didn't have a gun, which okay, but he could easily have access to a gun because he's
That's
working
true.
for
He was offered a
the
gun.
baby. And like so there are enough guns there, and then consider that the last time there was like a mass shooting in the US, like the argument is always, oh, you just need a good guy with a gun to kill the bad guy with a gun.
It's so stupid.
But the last time that happened, the guy still killed like 10 people or something, even though he was shot 30 seconds after he started shooting. So you can still do a lot of damage in a few seconds with a gun.
You're alienating the NRA members of our podcast. What are you doing?
I'm just saying, this can happen in Europe too. The guns are still here.
Did you know that the greatest mass shooting per capita country is Norway because of like one mass shooting? Anyway,
Well, that guy just got hold of like a gun and nobody was able to stop him.
Was it
Pretty
graphic?
pretty much he just and it was like it's one mass shooting, but it just, per capita it just dwarfs every other country in the developed world, I think. But anyway,
Wow. I didn't know that.
it's I don't know, it's just weird, I should say. I think
Well, that's
it
one
was
thing I do
weird because
appreciate about the show is that it is European. And, usually you have stories that take place in the States, especially in Japanese anime. It usually takes place in like some fucking fantasy land or some futuristic nonsense or some dumb isekai or whatever, or it will just take place in Japan.
Isekais are when they die and go into like a role-playing game when they die, right?
Well, when
no.
people from the real world go into a fantasy world or somehow are dragged there.
Yes,
Anyway,
like Escaflowne.
or Konosuba, that show I watched.
Yes, Konosuba. But like that, particularly in anime, which, again, most of the time takes place in the settings I just described, it's very refreshing to have an anime that takes place in Europe. Like, I can't really think of... There probably are others. Like, there definitely are. but it's not common, and I think that gives the show a different flavor that sets it apart.
Vinland Saga takes place in Europe, but that's also an extreme outlier.
Fullmetal Alchemist
That's
takes place in a European style world.
Yeah, again, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's rare. So when it does happen, it's appreciated.
And what's even rarer is that it actually gets a lot of the looks and the historical details and the architecture right. I mean, I posted a bunch of images like the Dresden main railway station or train station, which looks exactly like it looks in the show. And then I randomly looked up when they're in Prague. I looked up a telephone number that was on the side of a taxi, and actually found out that's a real taxi hotline in the Czech Republic. It was one shot with a telephone number on that fucking cab, and that actually existed, which blew my mind. And then
that is an absurd level for attention to detail. That's crazy.
And then the Heidelberg Castle looked exactly like what it looks like. And it makes sense that the show starts in Düsseldorf, because that's the main, where most of the Japanese people in this country live. Like, they have their own malls and societies there. So yeah, it all makes perfect sense. It's crazy that they got that so right, especially when you usually see how the Japanese butcher other cultures in other languages. In anime, at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought it was weird during the latter half of the show when Tenma was hanging out with the refugees. I was watching that, and then I turned on the news, and I was watching the Turks and the Kurds have their scuffle, and I was thinking, well, Monster is trying to because Monster was trying to present the Turks as like these humble, good people, which they probably are. But it was kind of just weird to see. It was
kind of weird that they all had the same mustache.
That was also weird.
That was a bit stupid.
It was also weird how every character has like a big nose.
Hey, I'm sure they were on a tight budget, and they were just reusing the same design because they're like, "Look, we gotta get this out, guys."
Probably they just modeled it after the manga.
I mean, I haven't read the manga, so I'm not sure if there are any significant differences. I've heard that the anime is pretty close to the manga. There's not a whole lot that's changed.
Yeah, I read a criticism where somebody said that it was too close to the manga. Where it, to the point where it is not fulfilling its potential as an animated show because it is so devoted to just doing exactly what the manga did or something like that. Which I didn't feel. I thought it was a really good show, but somebody said that.
Yeah, I never once, watching the show, having not read the manga, I never once thought oh man, obviously they're being held back by the manga here. I never felt that way at all.
I did feel in some scenes, like when he was reading that text, look at me, the monster inside me is about to explode. That's a scene which plays better in a manga because you can sort of look at the image for longer. But
sure.
that's not even a problem. That's just, it works better in one medium than it does in the other.
No, I agree with that.
Because no one reading the manga would even be able to read that in German. So you'd have to put a translation somewhere anyway.
Oh, yeah. They would probably.
Yeah, but I think what Acer is saying is that, the effect of that, being it's when Johan
scene.
Scribbles that on the wall or on the water tank, as a manga panel, you can just look at it and soak it in and feel the intent and the atmosphere of that panel and appreciate it more than how it's presented in the show. Where in the show, they kind of just they show it for a bit, for a couple of seconds, and then they have to cut back to Tenma. And it's just something that works better in manga form.
Yes.
True.
But yeah, I also thought that this show could be just made live action, pretty much without
Easily.
changing. Yeah, well, not. There are a couple of things you need to change. You need to change.
When I say easily, I meant like obviously it couldn't be 1-to-1, but
Yeah.
like just easily in the sense that like there's nothing supernatural. There's all you would need is like a good director, a good script writer, and the willingness to like shoot on in these different provinces.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to say this is like the only anime I've ever seen where I feel like it could be real actors. And
I think there are two problems with it. One of them being bigger than the other. I think the small problem is that you would sort of need an audience to be willing to buy that a guy can just be shot in the head twice and live. But I think you can just sort of say, yeah, that's the world we live in. The other one is...
I don't think so. I don't think that's a big deal. Like there have been cases where people have been like shot in the head and lived. So,
I don't think he
Yeah,
needs
that's
to be
true.
shot in the head, for one. He could
I
be
think
shot
it's just-
elsewhere.
Yeah, I think it's just a cooler visual if he is. But I'm saying that's the smaller one. I think you can reasonably expect an audience to just sort of buy that. The one you can't expect them to buy is when he's cross-dressing as his sister in Prague and people
That's
don't
true.
realize.
Yep.
That's
that
the one...
that's true. That would have to be written out or something, because there's no way you're going to be able to pull that off.
Yeah. It was a really cool reveal in the show, though.
It was really cool.
I also thought that if they did a live-action show, do you get twins to play Johan and Anna, or do you
That's-
get one girl to play both of them?
You've seen Suspiria. You've seen Tilda Swinton
Yes.
play a man.
Oh, yeah. She was pretty good, except for the voice.
It was the voice was fine. It was kind of like the man was so old that his voice
Yeah.
was kind of high and frail.
But yeah, another one is you can use a deep fake, but that's like at that point, why not just use twins?
Yeah, well, that's actually a problem. Maybe there are twins out there who could pull this off, but those would need to be really good actors too.
Yeah.
And you would need to have access to them, and they need to speak those languages. So you probably have a very small pool of people who can actually do that.
So I think the way to do it would just to be get a girl to play both characters. But then I feel like you lose something when that you don't have them on screen at the same time with real chemistry. But
So
get
get twin sisters.
get the Olsen sisters. Get the Olsen twins.
No. No.
I'm not
What?
sure if
I don't think that would work.
if an Olsen twin could actually play Johan.
No way. There's
She
no
could be
way.
like Johan could be like, girl, did I do that? What was their catchphrase in that in Full House?
I don't know.
You got it, dude.
really?
Imagine Johan.
I think that's what it was.
It was something stupid. You're American, Daniel. You should know.
I just said it.
You got it, dude.
That's
Johan.
it.
Johan.
That was their catchphrase.
Johan reveals himself from the shadow to Tenma after killing Adolf. What was his name? Adolf something.
Yonkers.
Yonkers. And Tenma goes, "It's you, Johan." And Johan goes, "You got it, dude."
I will say though, that does bring me to one of the problems I have with the show, and that is some of the things that Johan did really stretches believability. The thing that comes to mind the most are those fucking whiskey bonbons. Like, how the hell, especially as a child, did Johan lace those candies with the what was the muscle relaxant? I forget what it was called. How the fuck did he manage to do that? And not only that, how did he make sure that the people that he wanted dead ate those things?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
that was like, come on, that's
was
bullshit.
questionable.
The muscle relaxants he would have just gotten from the hospital. he probably just, opened up the candies,
But did
laced them
Johan...
with muscle
sorry.
relaxants, and then
How
put
would
them back
Johan
in the wrapper.
know that the muscle relaxants would do that? Like he was like 8.
Dude, at
No,
that
he
point
had-
you
he
had
had been
already
through-
killed multiple people.
Yeah, he had killed multiple people at that point.
But how would he? No, I'm asking how would he know the muscle relaxant would kill them?
Probably just knew.
He's a little kid. What would he know
Yeah,
about
He's clearly
medicine?
not a normal kid.
He's not a normal
I
kid.
didn't say he was a normal kid. I said he's a little kid.
He's clearly
When I
very
was a-
intelligent and very fucked up.
When I was 8 years old,
Yes,
I
he
was
is fucked up and
I was
intelligent,
familiar
but-
with the idea
whatever.
of poisoning people. So, like, I don't see why this is a problem.
Okay, getting past like whether he would know that the muscle relaxants would kill them or not, it's still like super contrived that like, oh, the right people ate the whiskey bonbon.
Yeah.
It would have been so easy for someone to accidentally eat one that wasn't intentional and they would die. Like later on, he does the whiskey bonbon shit again.
Yeah.
Sook, Detective Sook could have easily eaten one of the whiskey bonbons, and that would have like messed up Johan's plans at the time. And he didn't by chance. I'm just saying.
Did Johan have help at that point? When
Yeah.
he was a small boy?
Oh,
I don't-
small boy.
I don't think so.
No, probably not.
No.
If he had
No,
any, it was
definitely
just
not.
other children, and they were not as smart as him.
Hmm.
But I imagine, like, you could sort of write it as, well, he probably just snuck off in the middle of the night, went into that room where they were gonna be talking, where the whiskey bonbons were, poisoned them, and then went back to his room. And then they all went, that's kind of contrived, but...
But then, whatever. Is it worth thinking about?
No.
Like, then he'd have to
I'm not-
seal the
this-
bag again. They would not have to
No,
realize...
they already opened the bag. They opened it when they took it from him when they were in his room in the hospital.
To be clear, I'm not saying this is like a huge deal. This is a nitpick.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's a bigger problem the second time when he does it as an adult.
Sure.
I also thought after it was revealed that Johan had been talking to Suk all this time, I thought, oh, is this gonna become one of those weird sex shows? Is that why Daniel likes it? Where Johan's gonna suck Suk's dick? He's gonna give Suk the Suk, and
Sook the suck.
is this gonna be one of those shows? Is that why Daniel likes it so much? But it wasn't that. But I
No.
imagine if Johan thought there was something to be gained for doing that, he probably would. Like, I don't think he would be
Yeah,
bothered.
he would.
It's kind of like
See,
Griffith.
I think that's the interesting thing about Johan. He doesn't seem to have any wants or desires. Like his motivations are weird. This also brings me to this question: what do you guys think the monster is?
Oh.
I just wanted to, before we move on, because I wanted
Sure,
to
sure.
to talk about Johan for a bit longer, because I do agree with the bonbons, but
Mm-hmm.
in general, I think Johan might be one of my favorite villains I've ever seen. And you're right that a lot of what he does stretches believability, but it works for me because he is barely in the show. Like
I
he
think-
he barely has any screen time, and yet he's incredibly threatening, and he's always present. And I find that so fascinating.
See, the whiskey bonbon thing was kind of a problem for me, but otherwise, I'm okay with it because I think it adds like a layer of mystery to him, like almost as if like he's omnipresent,
Yes.
even though he obviously isn't. But like it gives that like sensation or he has this like aura to his character.
Yeah, and he knows how to manipulate people so that they will do what he wants them to do, even when he's not around.
Yeah, he has this hold on people. He's able to convince them to do things. It's almost like he has like the power of perfect persuasion or something. Like he knows exactly what to tell someone in order to get them to do what he wants.
And also, he's shown very early on where he shoots the lockpick. like it's not a particularly gruesome scene, but he's so cold and non-emotional about it that he can be hands-on when he wants to be. And I think that's a perfect setup to where whenever Johan might be around and one of the characters meets him or might, come into contact with him, you fear for their lives at any point. Because if Johan doesn't need them anymore, he's gonna fucking shoot them. And because he's so charming, they're probably gonna, drop their guard and just get shot.
I am so shocked that Carl
Richard
never died.
I'm
so shocked that Carl was survived because he spent the most time with Johan than any other character in the show, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, probably Roberto or something, but yeah.
No, well, on screen I meant.
Yeah.
Someone that wasn't his underling.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I was so pissed when Richard died. Because I thought, oh wow, we finally have a main character who's worth paying attention to. I didn't love Tenma as much as you do, Daniel. I thought Tenma was sort of like... I think he's fine, but I would have much rather preferred if it had been the Richard show. He was what's your
beef with Tenma? He's a great character.
He's just boring. He's such a nerd.
But he needs to be. Like, there's the emotional conflict in the movie is you have Tenma, who is like through and through a good person, and then you have Johan, who is through and through fucked up and evil, and then all the other characters are in between somewhere on the moral spectrum.
Yeah, but that's I'm not saying that the show would have been made better if Richard had been the main character. I'm just saying, I don't know. I guess I just wanted more of him.
Richard is infinitely more interesting.
I just wanted more of him. And Boken, we're gonna get into a beef now. You don't like Cam Clark Richard for some reason.
Well,
he was so
Boken
sassy.
doesn't like dubs.
Yeah.
He was so sassy though. He had like swagger like Han Solo.
But he wasn't sassy in the show. He was like beat down.
Yeah, I know, and I watched that version and it was worse.
The only thing he had in his life was alcohol, and then he gave up.
Yeah, but that was also present in the dub. He just also had like an attitude to sort of mask it.
See, but he shouldn't have an attitude. He didn't have an attitude in Japanese, and that's what made him so tragic to me. Because he fucking took every hit that was coming, and he still kept going.
Yeah, but he was voiced by Cam Clark.
I don't give a fuck.
Oh my god.
You don't give a fuck about Liquid Snake? Come on.
It's not over yet, Snake. He practically said it in the show. He didn't, though. It's sort of funny. Both Liquid and Richard fell from great heights. Fun trivia. This is sort of shit trivia you read on the Silent Hill wikis. I'm reconstructing my Silent Hill 3 video at the moment. And it's like, the bloated hands of this monster might be a reference to shopping bags. And they could be pointing out how consumerism is bad. It's like, do you seriously think that's the case? Like, seriously, you think you think they're talking about fucking consumerism?
Okay, and this is veering into Silent Hill 3. I don't think that monster represents consumerism. I think that monster represents how Heather views the people around her in malls.
No, I'll get into it in my video. It's not monster. But it has a specific meaning.
Whatever.
Anyway.
Yeah, whatever. Anyways, I think Tenma's a great character because I feel like the show is like almost a conflict of ideologies. Like Johan represents like pure nihilism, while Tenma represents like pure altruism. But what makes Tenma really interesting is that he is a good man forced to do things that is morally ambiguous, right? Like he brought Johan.
He is too good for the world he lives in.
But here's the thing: Tenma never does anything really morally objectable. He never kills anyone.
No,
he did attempt to kill Roberto in self-defense.
True, but he didn't.
But Roberto survived.
Because Roberto is such a Chad. And he just absorbed a bullet and falling into a sea of fire.
And he survived. What the fuck?
And then he just goes around the German countryside, banging every chick in his outside.
Yeah.
It's just, what the fuck is this guy?
That was what I loved most about the ending, though. Like, I'm jumping to the very ending now, but the revelation that not only does Tenma not actually shoot anyone, but then he then decides to operate on Johan and save his life again.
Yes,
Yeah, I
that
really
is
like
so
that.
good.
I really, really like that. I was just like, God, Tenma can't help himself. It's literally not in him to want people to die.
But it's more than that. It's also a reaffirmation of his initial decision that Tenma wasn't wrong to save him the first time.
Yeah.
He didn't do the wrong thing. But if he leaves him to die now, he shows Johan that, well, it doesn't show Johan, but he strays from his moral path.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a victory over Johan's nihilism that he chooses to do it again.
I also feel that act was what ultimately saved Johan, because when Tenma first saved Johan, Tenma didn't know who Johan was. He was just this little kid and he had to save him. But Tenma now had experienced everything they experienced throughout the show. He knew exactly who Johan was. And despite all of that, he still decided to save him.
And that works so well with Johan's backstory about how he didn't know if his mother had intended to save him or not. But he knows, without a shadow of a doubt, Tenma chose to save him.
Yes.
I also loved that revelation in the end where he was talking about, like, which one of us didn't my mother need? Doku ta Tenma.
I feel like that moment was the first spark for Johan to become who he is. I don't think it was the ultimate I don't think that was the that one thing alone was what turned him into what he was. I do think that was the initial spark, because it really. I think that was when it started to destroy his humanity.
I think that's sort of the initial spark. Well, I think it happened before, because his mother, in an effort to conceal her children, forced both of them to dress like Anna, so people wouldn't notice he had twins. And I think that would have been the initial spark, where he has to sort of abandon his identity.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get to be who he is. He has to adopt his sister's identity. And then when then his mother makes the choice, and then later on he's given the identity of Johan by what's his name? Wolf.
Franz Bonaparte.
No, by the Nazi guy, the Helmut Wolf.
Wolf.
Oh, it was Wolf.
Yeah.
Wolfgang.
Yes.
No, not
Helmut
Wolfgang.
Wolf.
Just
Wolfgang.
Wolf.
Yeah. Anyway,
No, yeah,
it's
that's Grimmer's first name. God, so many characters.
55 of them, as we discussed earlier. But yeah, it's this that he didn't get to have an identity, and now he's a grown man, still not really rooted in any identity. But then Tenma decides to save him. That was so good. When Lunge was in the chakra, he's like, but you have one. It was so good. It was so powerful. It made me feel, you guys.
Made me feel things, man. But I feel like this is relevant to Johan's character, and not because I think it's the surface level answer of, like, obviously Johan is the monster. I think it's deeper than that, but I did want to ask your guys' interpretation of what you think the monster represents. Like, what is it exactly?
Oh.
Isn't the monster specifically the void that these experiments created within the twins? Like, that's what the children's story is about, right? It's the monster that has no name and no identity. And so they go around looking for one. And it's like the twins kind of tackle that issue in different ways. Like, ultimately, Johan goes for the erasure of all connection and of all identity and of all memories of the people around him, while Anna learns to actually build a personality and memories for herself. Like she learns to build her life from that point onward.
Yes.
So the problem is that both characters do not have an identity, and that's what awakens the monster in them.
Yeah, I
read
yeah, I
somewhere.
agree with that. I
read-
also kind of felt like the monster was Johan losing his sense of humanity, and like I feel like everything that Johan went through, like going through 511 Kinderheim, getting shot in the head, you know, I think these experiences more and more stripped away pieces of Johan, like especially at an early age, and it left him with nothing. And I think that void, like that you called it, that was the monster. And the reason why he kept saying it was growing throughout the show is because he, more and more as the show went on, he felt like there was nothing inside of him, and he just became more hollow as the show went on, because Johan is never depicted as enjoying anything,
There's no
he's
beach
never
episode.
he has no interest in sex. He has no interest in like anything.
He just sort of goes through life.
And he doesn't have the context that that most people do of like learning to appreciate life or understanding respect and respecting like other people's capacity for life and for passion and for love, and he never got any of that. So for him, he's like this husk that just exists. And I think that's the real monster, just that emptiness inside of him.
But there's also the line he spoke when he was talking to Tenma in the end, where the monster first appeared to him. And this is a comment I read somewhere, I don't remember where, but in that scene where Bonaparte took Anna, there were three monsters potentially in that scene. There was the man who would make a mother choose between her children. There is the mother who would make the choice between her children. And there is the child that would feel relief at not having been chosen.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That comment has always stayed. That comment stuck with me after I first read it. But yeah, it's that sort of growing emptiness within Johan.
Nihilism.
Yes.
Just like this feeling, or even lack thereof, just this idea
this
that
disregard
nothing means
for
anything.
existence.
Can we talk
Most
about
of the universe is
what
just
Johan's
death.
ultimate plan was?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he was trying to replicate the circumstances at 511 Kinderheim, and he wanted to have this like grand suicide.
They call it that. They call it the Great Suicide. And they say that Johan wants to... I think he wants to build like a perfect isolation where everyone around him is dead. Like it's basically you exist because of your association to other people, right? Like that is what a person is what he...
That is what the story he read was about.
Yeah. All your connections to other people is what make you who you are. And I understood it as he comes to this little town and he kills everyone, or he gets everyone to kill each other, so that at the end he can kill himself, because, then he is like perfectly isolated. Is that what he was going for?
Well, he went to the town because he learned that Bonaparte was still alive.
Yeah.
But he kills Bonaparte, or he lets him be killed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he gets Roberto to do it.
Yeah.
But I think the idea there is that, well, he gets Roberto to do it. I don't know about that, because Roberto just does it.
Sure.
No,
I think Johan may have had grander plans for Bonaparte.
I don't think so.
I don't know about
Yeah, no,
Johan
you think
was
so?
just standing there. He knew that, like, Bonaparte was about to shoot him, and
That's true.
Johan looked like he knew that he was gonna get shot first.
Yeah,
I don't think Johan expected to be shot by Bonaparte, because whenever Johan believes that he's going to be shot, he always points at his head. And he didn't do that with Bonaparte.
that's true.
Every single time Johan was convinced that he's about to die, he's about to be shot, he always does that.
That's true.
So I believe that he intended for Bonaparte to die. And the reason is because when he was in the library, the one that burned down, he found the picture book by Bonaparte. And I think when he started reading the picture book, Johan regained all of his memories. And that's when he remembered Bonaparte. And that's when he decided to change his plans, and he was going to kill Bonaparte.
No, because he didn't know Bonaparte was alive at that point. He didn't figure that out until near the end of the show.
You sure about that?
Yeah,
I mean, he didn't know Bonaparte was alive, but he did know that his mom wanted Bonaparte dead. So I'm sure after that he probably was like, okay, let's see if Bonaparte is alive. Let's track him down.
That's probably true. But he didn't know. He didn't have it confirmed that Bonaparte was alive until he asked, was it the baby or no? It was Helmut. No, who was the third crazy guy, evil guy, the old guy?
The older gentleman with glasses.
Yes, who shot his driver, who was reaching for cigarettes or something.
Oh yeah.
He asked him if Bonaparte was still alive, and that's when he got his confirmation.
But then, what was Johan's plan?
I think initially it was just sort of to go out and cause as much misery as he could. That was sort of the idea behind burning all the books. It would be just like this massive gaping wound left in the world.
Okay, I think what it is, so if you remember the picture book, the picture book showed the monster gobbling everyone up, right?
Mm.
And at the end, there was no one left. He finally had a name, Johan. It was a great name, but there was no one left to appreciate his name. So I think what Johan was trying to do was that he was trying to erase any trace of who he was. I think he was trying to erase his identity, like anything that was left that could trace back to him at the end.
You know what the problem with that theory is? That Karl and Schuwald are still alive, and he never went back to kill them.
And they also make a note that he wants Tenma to be alive, to remember it.
He wants Tenma to shoot him.
Yes. But there is also... The monster in the book didn't eat the people because it didn't want to be remembered. It did it because it was hungry. So maybe it's just a natural hunger in Johan.
That's a good point.
It would have made sense to me if he had killed everyone but Bonaparte, and then he forced Bonaparte to watch all his... because Bonaparte was settling down in that town. So he just forced Bonaparte to kill, to watch him kill everyone he loved and all his acquaintances, to leave him completely isolated.
I think Johan also wanted to fulfill his mother's wishes. So that's why Bonaparte died.
Sure, but he could have been way more. He didn't need to kill all the other people then. Could have gone straight for Bonaparte.
Sure, but I think that's him again replicating the Kinderheim situation. I think there's something within Johan that compels him to reenact what's happened in his past. But that's the interesting thing about Johan, though. It's really difficult to pin him down, right? I don't think there's any real concrete answer that's like 100% satisfactory. He's kind of like this enigma. And that's why we've been talking about him for so much, because he's there's so much that you could say about his character, and it's difficult to like. I don't think there's one real like conclusive answer that
It's
like
also-
perfectly explains him.
It is also that his plan does definitely change. When he was a child, didn't he say something about wanting to be the last one standing at the end of the world?
Yeah, Roberto was saying that he wanted to see the doomsday scenario. No, the
Perfect
doomsday escape
or
or something like that.
Yeah, no, the landscape of a perfect doomsday or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I thought it was super cool when the show started introducing those crazy right-wingers. And when Anna had to step on that carpet, it was like, ugh.
That guy, that was easily the worst character of the show. That guy and his fucking carpet.
Whose phone was that?
Mine.
Boken. Now we need to edit
Important
this entire...
news from eventim.com.
What's happening?
Thank you. I don't know. Some fucking metal bands are playing in my region.
Well, we've been sucking the show's dick a lot, but I did have some problems with the show, and I feel like the show's biggest problem, and it's one that I feel is understandable given how long it is, and it is one continuous story, but there were a lot of instances where I felt like it was very convenient. Like it really felt like a lot of events were kind of forced to happen, and they didn't happen organically for the sake of continuing the story. Like there were some instances where I wasn't really bothered by it. Like there was an old man that Tenma met like in the earlier episodes, and he lived. Tenma first went to that building to talk to an old woman, and then there was an old man that I think motioned to talk to Tenma on the second floor or something like that. He just so happened to be at the right place at the right time to talk to this old man about Johan, who happened to know about Johan. You know, there was another instance where Tenma was trying to look up about information about 501 Kinderheim. He just so happened to bump into an old lady that just so happened to know, stuff about 501 Kinderheim, so it could progress the story. Stuff like that, I'm not too bothered by, because to me, I feel that's just, I like to call that expedient contrivance, where he probably would have been able to find this information one way or another. And this is just the show's way of just speeding things along.
Like, especially that old lady. Wasn't she in an orphanage or something? And she happened to know that, but he was specifically looking for that information, so he would have found it eventually.
Right, so that kind of contrivance I'm not bothered by, because, again, he would have come across it eventually. This is just the show's way of just like, yeah, let's just hurry things along. But I do think that there are other forms of contrivance that was a little more harmful. There was an episode where Nina finds the guy that killed her family, and at the end of that episode, Nina is kidnapped and she's taken to some location, and that guy has a change of heart and he goes back to save Nina. How the fuck did he know where she was? That wasn't explained.
But also, that was just filler. Right?
I don't think that excuses the writing.
No,
fumble.
I'm not saying... I'm saying that's another issue I have with the show. There are a lot of episodes which you can just sort of skip. Whose only job really is to reinforce that, oh no, Tenma's a good guy. Look at this. He's helping this old British couple.
I don't think there were a lot.
Yeah,
I think there
don't
were
know
a
if
lot.
I think it was
agree
a
with that.
handful.
I think you need to establish that. Like
Yeah,
when he
maybe,
meets that
but-
old couple, and he waits for them because they've run out of. No, he comes back for them because they've run out of gas, and they're like, well, that guy's gone.
Yeah,
they-
but I'm not saying you don't need to establish that he's a good guy. I'm just saying you don't need to. Like, can't you do that without taking 20 minutes to just do that? Can you do something else at the same time? I don't know.
There's usually
I
a B
thought that-
plot, though.
I thought that was a nice episode, though, with the old British couple. And again, I don't think
I
it's
hated
really
it because their accents were so bad.
okay.
It was so
Should've watched
weird
the
because
sub.
I watched the sub too, but in the English one it's so stupid. They're going like, "Oh, hello there. You a doctor, eh?" And he goes, "What are you saying? Are you speaking English?" Oh my god, my English isn't so good. Let me and Dieter starts talking to them. "Hey, can we get a ride?" And Tenma goes, "Wait, Dieter, I'll speak English to them so they understand me. Hello. You're not from here." It's just like, what the fuck?
Okay,
you
you're-
couldn't have.
Okay, you're really stretching it. That interaction wasn't nearly that long.
It wasn't that long, but it was that painful.
Like, I still liked the episode though because I thought the older gentleman, his thing about his son and him like thinking he has this knack for seeing like the good and bad in people, and then him questioning whether he actually could or not because of his son, committing a crime. Like, I thought that was a cool episode.
Yeah.
Was it like super necessary? Not really, but I think it's I think it's still a good episode.
Disagree.
And I'd argue that most of the episodes were relevant. Like, I don't think there were a ton of episodes that were just purely filler. Like there,
if you're going through this the first time, you watch all the episodes. But the second time around, you can kind of which episodes you can just sort of skip.
sure, there's that one episode with the small town doctor, and he has to save the old lady at the end who becomes his wife later on. Like, that's not relevant. That's a total filler.
There's that Tenma gets a gun arc, famously long, famously bad. You can skip
Famously
that.
long.
Oh, shut up.
That is
That's
such
not
a
filler.
wonderful little moment at the end. The same with that old couple.
You hate children. What are you talking about?
That's true, I guess.
But like Tenma learning to use a gun, that's actually important because he uses that gun for the entire fucking show.
Also, he barely.
but he's not learning to use a
The training was
gun
so unimportant.
He's not learning to use a gun in that episode, in that arc, if you will. He's just skipping rope and shit.
Yeah, because you need to be fit in order to like handle the gun properly.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true at all.
You need good hand-eye coordination to use a gun.
Yeah, but he already has that. He's a surgeon.
But the skills necessary to be a surgeon are so different from being able to use a gun.
Yeah.
I think they
Just because you have,
one
just
to
because
one.
you're a good surgeon doesn't mean you're gonna automatically have like good aiming with a gun.
You know what I thought was weird? I thought it was weird that Johan being shot in the head never came up again in relation to his psyche being fractured. I thought for sure we were going to learn that. And I'm glad we didn't, but I thought for sure the show was going to go, well, he was shot in the head, and therefore he doesn't work like normal people. I think that would have been a cop-out.
That aspect of him having multiple multiple identities, was undercooked anyway. It was never brought up again. Like, they learned that, and then Johan was gone from the show for a while. Yeah. And he was never shown being like this good person struggling with himself or something.
No, I think he just wrote that as a joke or something.
No, I think if you remember what the
He wrote that as a joke.
Well, if you remember what the psychologist said, the one that was friends with well, he wasn't friends with him when they were in college. Like, he saw Tenma as a rival. One of the things that he told Tenma when Tenma brought him some stuff that Johan did, he said that that serial killers or like people like this, they tend to fuck with people. Like, they're not as introverted as people think. They're actually like really good at manipulating others and making you.
That's why they're so scary. They could just be anybody your neighbor. You wouldn't necessarily know it.
So I don't think at all that Johan literally had a multiple personality disorder. I think that
Identity.
was multiple identity or whatever. I think that was
Dissociative
him.
identity disorder.
See, I think
Okay.
Boken is the real monster for pointing all of this stuff out.
Because I've
people know
minored
what
in
I'm saying.
psychology. That makes me the monster.
The point I'm trying to make is, I don't think that I think that's entirely Johan messing with other people and to make people think he's something that he's not.
Yes.
I don't think it's some
but
disorder he has. I think that's him.
When I
just
when I
fucking
said
with people.
his fractured psyche, I probably shouldn't have worded it that way. I was more talking about. I thought it was weird that him being shot in the head never really came up again when they were discussing why he is the way he is. Like people get shot in the head. Like people get injuries to their frontal cortex, and their personality completely changes. And I thought, is that going to be the revelation? Like,
No.
is he evil because he just no longer has the literal capacity to do good or something? And I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah, that would
because
be lame.
No, I don't.
It would be a real cop out.
The show itself disproves that because Johan killed a bunch of people before he got shot in the head.
True, but I still thought, like, I wasn't paying attention. I'm not gonna lie, but I thought that was gonna come up again, and it didn't. But
I mean,
it's not a problem.
to be fair, it's like a 74 episode show. It's easy to like miss details, or to forget things. Like,
I also thought it was funny that when Tenma visits him in the end, it's clearly been like 2 or 3 months because Johan's hair has grown back. And he's just been pretending to be in like a coma.
you mean at the end of the show?
Yeah. Because they shaved his head when they were removing the bullet. They shaved his head again.
Right.
No, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So they had to write in that Johan has been in a coma for like some time to justify that his hair has come back.
Right.
That must mess with you, though, being shot in the head twice.
It's weird that there never were any scars to destroy his handsome boyish looks.
Ooh.
So I wanted to ask, how did you guys feel about the ending in that at the end, Johan is gone from the bed? And we're just left with that.
I thought it works. What do you mean? Like, the alternative is he's just lying in a bed.
Well, Johan lives, and he's off in the world again. Like, he's... How do you feel about that, being left with that?
Oh, I think...
that idea that Johan not only still lives, but that he's out in the world again. Like, how did that make you feel?
I thought that was a nice way to end it. Because I get the feeling that if like, he's probably not gonna resume his criminal activities. I get the feeling that Johan, post-monster, if he just went out back into the world and didn't just, maybe he just jumped out the window and committed suicide or something. But if he's back in the world, he's probably gonna try and be a normal human being. Like, I don't get the sense that...
I think that reflects what Grimmer said.
Yeah,
where,
that you can't repress it forever. You can't erase it, you can only repress it.
No, what I was going to say is Grimmer, when he saw... he did not see the final episode of The Amazing Steiner. And he said, you know what? I think the final episode of The Amazing Steiner, he became a human.
Oh.
So I think your theory is right, that at the end, Johan probably decided to try and live a normal life.
Yeah, it's probably true. Hey, Bogan, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you were young, growing up under a brutal communist regime, waiting for Ronald Reagan to save you, did you watch
Did you
crappy
realize
children's...
I was born in 1989?
Did you watch crap children's cartoons too?
I grew up in the 90s.
So
So
yes.
I watched Western cartoons, so yes.
I
And then at some point I got into Pokemon in One Piece, and then everything was over.
Flushed down the toilet. But yeah, I think that is a good point that Steiner became human again, probably.
Yeah, because Grimmer also went through 511 Kinderheim. So I feel like a lot of the people that we see that went through that experience are in some way reflective of Johan. So
Yeah.
I feel like that line of dialogue before Grimmer passed away was significant for that reason.
You know what character I really liked was that guy Christoph, who believed that Johan was like going to give him the world. I liked him so much because he was like such a lowbrow imitation of Johan, where he was psychoanalyzing Martin and all that, but he did not have what Johan had.
He didn't have the charisma. He felt like a cheap imitation.
And also, when he's shot in the ear, he has like just a meltdown.
Yeah.
Like, you imagine
He's
Johan
like, I'm
being
a
shot in the ear.
politician. My face is important.
If Johan had been shot in the ear, he probably would have just sat there.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have cared.
But yeah, I like that guy because he was just such nothing compared to Johan. I also love that scene after Anna and Johan have a talk in that abandoned house, where the old guy who drove Tenma did he drive Tenma there?
Wait, which old guy?
The one with the glasses, the evil guy who shot his
Did he
chauffeur.
drive him there? Maybe, I'm not sure.
I think he drove him there. What the hell is that guy's name?
Yeah,
Why
I'm
can't
going
I
through
remember?
the character list and I can't find him.
It's not Fritz Werdemann. Detective Messenger.
Was it
What the fuck was his name?
Karl Ranke?
Ranka.
No, it's not.
No, it wasn't Ranka. Fuck. This guy.
Oh! His name was Peter Chapek.
Chapek, yeah.
Yes, I love that scene.
Oh, yeah, Chapek. Okay, yeah, you're right.
I love that scene where they're in the abandoned house, and Johan and Anna have had their confrontation, and Tenma has talked to Anna. He's just walking into the wilderness, just completely empty. Like, what was our goal? What was it we were trying to create? What was our purpose?
He was like, what? Is it my plan? Are we doing Johan's plan? I don't even know anymore. He was completely broken. And then, as he suspected, one of his men ended up shooting him at the end.
Yep.
Probably because they were under the influence of Johan.
It's
what
wild
are
how many characters there are and how good
fleshed
most
out
of
they
them
all are.
Yeah.
When I
It's
was
like-
watching the show the second time through, whenever Dieter was on screen, I switched to the Japanese version because he's so much more fun in the Japanese version. He's like plucky.
It's crazy how effortlessly the show switches from one character to another and like introduces them, fleshes them out, kills them, and then suddenly you're with someone else, and then he starts being amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Did you guys realize near the end of the show in Ruinheim, did you guys notice that was Bonaparte immediately?
No, I don't think so.
No, me neither.
No. I at first I was like, okay, it's probably the old man in the wheelchair. But I'm glad it wasn't, because that would have been too obvious.
I also like Bonaparte's arc, where he's like, he is the worst human being in history, but then he tries to sort of just leave that behind him, and then his past comes back to haunt him.
I did like that he tried to make up for what he did. Like, he tried to console Anna and tried to tell her, like, hey, you don't have to become a monster. You should just forget what happened.
human beings can become anything. You know, in the dub, they changed that line. They go, human beings can become anything they choose to be. Which I think is a worse line, because I don't think Johan chose to become what he became. Anyway.
No, yeah, I agree. I believe Johan is the way he is because of what happened to him.
Yes.
I don't think it was a conscious decision for Johan to be this.
This is just a kid who has had his identity snuffed out, and when he's given a new identity, it's the monster or something.
This show brings up like interesting questions about nature versus nurture. Like, you know, who is Johan? Is he what has happened to him? Like, was he like, who was he before these events? Like, or is he just completely defined by the things that happened to him?
Mm.
Like, there's a lot of themes of like identity and
memory.
Yeah, and memory. Oh, I really liked how Johan jumbled up his own memories with Anna's, because Anna told him
Anna forgot the memory herself.
Yes. I think his memories got jumbled up probably because of the brainwashing in Kinderheim. So he got everything mixed up and thought that he was the one that experienced the Red Rose Mansion massacre.
Yes.
So like it was clearly not like a combination of, you know, not just things that he personally experienced, but like his own memories getting jumbled up with Anna's, and like that this just kind of steamrolled into, you know, the person that he turned into.
There's so much backstory to this character that you can't really pick out what the hell he is. Like, we're trying, and every time we try, we dig ourselves into an even deeper hole.
Well, yeah, because he's barely on screen. He never has that scene where he, like, confronts Tenma and explains all his evil plans.
No, yeah,
that's
before I kill you, Tenma.
That's so great.
Tenma.
Like, he doesn't have like, aha, Tenma, you fool. Didn't you know X, Y, and Z? Like, that never happens. He is so anti the typical villain. He's like almost a force.
Yeah, he's larger than life.
I love that scene.
He's an entity.
I love that scene in the end of the show where he rises from the bed and he looks at Tenma, and like the sound effects as it like zooms on their faces. Tenma's absolute shock.
That got me too.
Yeah. And like Johan just has this fucking like look on his face, just like staring Tenma down. Like,
but isn't it funny that is the scene where he says, you know, did my mother mean to pick me, or did she mean to pick Anna? But it was Tenma imagining this, because he got the information earlier from their actual mother. So it's like Tenma was trying to, like, he was kind of daydreaming and trying to make sense of it. Johan never said it himself. Tenma was trying to make sense of it, and then when he snaps back to reality, Johan is just lying there again. And then when he turns around, then suddenly Johan is gone.
No, Johan was still in the bed. He's gone.
No, yeah, Johan was still in the bed. Johan was gone when Tenma left.
Oh yeah, he left, and then, but that means clearly he was actually awake, like he wasn't in a coma.
Yeah.
I think that was okay. So thinking about it, I think that was symbolic. I don't think that was literal. I don't think Johan actually got up. I don't think they actually had a conversation.
No, they didn't.
But I think the information relayed was still true.
Mm-hmm.
It was,
I think,
like Boken was saying, it was Tenma realizing what was behind it.
Yeah, I think Tenma was talking to Johan when he was in a coma and that's when that's when Johan, he was probably faking it, and then afterwards when Tenma left, that's when Johan left.
Yeah, but my point is that, I mean, we have a trouble really nailing Johan down to what he is. And the explanation we get at the end is not, like, that didn't actually happen. That is Tenma trying to make sense of Johan as well.
Yeah.
But they never actually physically had that conversation.
No, they definitely didn't.
So for all we know, maybe Tenma's just as wrong as we are. And that's not actually what motivated Johan.
No, I think it's fair to say that is the true motivation.
No,
because
it's
why
not,
else would
because
they
you
put
don't
it in
know
the
that.
show? Why would they put it in the show otherwise?
To make you question. To leave it open.
Yeah, maybe. But I don't know. It just, to me, it makes too much sense.
I agree with both of you in the sense that, like, I do think it was put there for the purposes of explaining Johan, but I also agree that it was also meant for us to, like, question it.
Yeah, and
but
that's why it's cool that the ending is so open, that you don't, like, he's out
you
there.
You guys are always teaming up against me.
I said I agreed with you too.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you too, and I'm glad they put that in there because it gives a new spin on the character. But in the confines of the discussion we are having, the show acknowledges that you can't really nail down Johan.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
And I'm glad that it's not easy to just pin him down. That's not necessarily saying that, like, characters that you do are able to pin down are inherently worse, but just that it really works for the show and what they were trying to build up Johan as. Like, he is this enigma. He is this, like,
bad hombre.
This force of nature almost.
And this
that you can't understand. He just is.
Yeah, and this is why we've been talking for like 75 minutes now. We've been mostly talking about Johan in a show where there are characters like Richard, like Grimmer, like Lunge.
We've never even, we haven't
we didn't
even
talk about any
Lunge.
of these characters, even though they're
Lunge
fucking
is such
amazing.
a great character.
But it's like Johan who's really the centerpiece of the whole thing.
And, you know, if you actually, like, tracked the literal amount of, like, minutes that he's on screen, it's probably not even, like, 2 or 3 episodes worth. Like, okay, it's probably more than that. It's probably at least, like, 7 or 8 episodes worth. But that's out of, like, a 74 episode show. Like, if you, like, his screen time is disproportionate to, like, the importance that he has. Yeah. Yet he manages to be so compelling.
Yet most things that happen can in some way be tracked back to him.
Yeah, all the evils that Tenma encounters, they all lead back to Johan in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, speaking of Lunge, he's pretty cool.
I really liked how his theory about Tenma just, like, fabricating Johan makes sense. Like,
yes,
if you were in Lunge's position, that theory holds water.
Much more so than an 8-year-old kid who grew up in this crazy environment and then went to the Kinderheim experiments and then became a serial killer and now has come back. That makes a hell of a lot less sense than, no, it's just you, Tenma.
No, yeah, Occam's razor was a bit blunt in this instance for Lunge. But I also really appreciate at the end of the show, Lunge apologizes to Tenma because he realized he realized that he was wrong.
Lunge also sort of reclaims his humanity by the end of the show.
Yeah, he has that moment where he's fighting with Roberto, and Roberto uses his family against him. So, like, earlier on in the show when Lunge...
I thought when they were talking about that, because I hadn't paid super attention the first time around, I thought it was going to be revealed that the man his wife was now seeing was Roberto.
I kind of got that too, even though that wouldn't have made sense.
Nah, but it would have been funny.
It would, yeah. But like Lunge, when Roberto was like, trying to fuck with him, Lunge actually reacted emotionally, which is surprising because like earlier on in the show, when his wife left him and his daughter, was leaving as well, he had like no expression. He had like no reaction. He was just like, he just looked at his watch and he's like, I've got to go. I got work to do. So it kind of made you think that he didn't care, but he actually did. He just dealt with it in his own like weird, eccentric way.
Yeah. Just dive
like
deeper into
pushing the emotion down and just like not dealing with it.
I imagine Lunge is one of those weirdos who takes a vacation and just hangs out in his home.
Well, you can't say that because Lunge did take a vacation and he decided to, go around Europe.
That's true.
Yeah.
But he wasn't
And
on
he just
vacation,
happened
not really.
He just happened to come to Prague. And then
He
he
just
happened to
happens
come
to
to the
have talked to all the
countryside in
people.
Baden-Württemberg, where he saw a little town called Runheim.
See, that's part of the convenience thing I was mentioning earlier, where like there are instances like that where the show just
There was
Kind
no
of forced
convenience.
things
He was
That's not a
following
coincidence. He wasn't on vacation.
leads. Yeah, he was working.
Well, no, like eventually he was just like, yeah, he did start following the clues, but like what initially spurred him on to do that was convenient.
I don't
Because he
think
was
he
on
was.
vacation, and then he just so happened to like stumble upon stuff, and then he was like, all right, I'm gonna
I think that's not true. I think that he went on vacation as a sort of self-discovery almost, where he abandons
yes.
his post in the BKA. Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
The
BK.
He
Bundeskriminalamt.
abandons that post so that he can be completely by himself and he can sort of pull himself out of whatever hole he'd gotten himself into and solve the case for real.
And I mean, it makes sense for him to take a vacation if he wants to go to Prague, because if he's on the job, he's not going to leave Germany. He's going to get other cases, but he was interested in that one.
Yes. Yes. I also like that scene.
I'm just saying that. Well, it's been a while since I saw the episode. I just remembered like the way he came across some information was contrived.
Oh yeah, that may be true. Where it was like, hey, I'm looking at a case which is exactly like the case you're looking into. How convenient that you're here. I love that scene where he was in the mirror going, I am Tenma. I am a Japanese man. And I also like that scene where he ditches his daughter.
Yeah, that's the best scene. That's such a good scene.
Oh, he
just-
ditched her.
Oh, that was fucked
Tenma
up.
is so isolated and alone. I'm going to tell my daughter to fuck off with my grandchild so that I can be more like Tenma.
But that's also just hearsay. Lunge, you don't actually know if that's true. You just heard that from some guy that Tenma was distant from his family. And also, you're already distant from your family, so
Yeah.
you shouldn't have to imitate that.
It wasn't enough.
He had to go all the way.
But yeah, Lunge was good. What was his speech he gave in German when he encountered in Japanese when he encountered Tenma again in Ruinheim? Because in the dub he gave like an almost fairy tale retelling of events, which was really cool.
I don't know.
Probably was just, hey Tenma,
Yeah, he said
It's
something
me.
about like how
my trip into imagination has blah 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 blah. But now
has
with
like converged
present
with reality.
but now present circumstances have because of present circumstances I re-emerged from the dream or something like that. It was super weird, but it was
he's like,
so
I'm
good.
back. He said, I'm back on the case. And
I'm back on the job.
Yeah, he's back on the job. And then after that's when he apologized.
I thought it was kind of sad that Hot Dog Girl had to die.
Everyone died.
Yeah.
In Ruinheim, everyone fucking died.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember when Hot Dog Girl died. That's like one of my favorite pet peeves is when a character is running somewhere and from the camera shot, Like from the camera angle, you know exactly they're going to be shot
Yeah.
right that second. That happened at the end of what is that show called? Cowboy Bebop.
I haven't seen it. Don't spoil it.
Okay. It's like at
Bebop is so good.
at the end.
Nah, it's not that good.
Fuck you.
Have
Go
you
watch it then.
Have you seen it?
I've seen 2 episodes. It's not that good.
Okay. At the end.
Okay, you can't say it's not that good if you only see 2 episodes, you dumb fuck.
I think I absolutely can. Go on, Bogan.
No, you cannot.
At the end.
I think my
there's
track record for evaluating quality shows speaks for itself, Daniel. See, I haven't learned my lesson from watching Monster again.
Yeah. And then whenever
But
I
You're
make
hopeless.
a suggestion, you go into defense mode.
You know, I showed my dad the first episode of Monster, and he was like, "This show is crap. It's just about, like, I don't want to watch a serial doctor drama show. This is crap." And I was like, "Oh, Dad, why did you make me like this?"
Anyway, the fucking point being that sometimes those shows have those wide-angle shots where a character starts running and you know exactly they're going to get shot from somewhere right that
It's also
second.
Yeah, you could feel it.
And
It's
then,
also in horror movies where there's a lot of empty space and you
Yeah.
know something's gonna appear.
and that bothered me at the end of Cowboy Bebop, where I was like, oh, fuck. I know exactly what's going to happen.
All right. Shit, is there anything else you guys want to bring up?
Yeah, a lot of stuff. But
Cool.
I don't
Okay,
know.
go ahead.
But it's mostly, I think we've exhausted most of the interesting stuff.
Yeah, 80% dedicated to Johan. The most interesting thing about the show.
Yeah. I'm hoping that Guillermo del Toro gets his adaptation of Monster off the ground soon. You wanted to do that?
I don't need
see.
an adaptation of this.
I do.
Why?
I think it's perfect the way it
It
is. It
exists.
doesn't.
Sure, but
I
I
don't
want to
need it
watch
again.
it again. And I don't want to watch it animated again. Guys, if we
can
don't
read the
get a
manga.
live action, if it's not adapted in live action, then it's not serious.
I mean, you could always read the manga if you really need to experience it
Just,
again.
give it a few years and then you're going to want to watch it again. You don't need some dumb remake.
Would you guys be interested in a sequel to this?
No.
Like, how would you even go about making a sequel
No.
to this? It is so
It
complete.
doesn't need anything. Like, the ending was just fine the way it is.
But
Like,
what if
don't-
Naoki Urasawa comes out of writing...
I said
bunch of-
no, Asa.
What if he comes out and he says, you know what? I feel like there's another story to be told with these characters. Sponsored by Mountain Dew Doritos.
Sponsored by
Monster 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Sponsored by Pocky and Cup Noodles.
Johan, my nemesis. But first, I must
But
enjoy
first-
my cup ramen noodles.
But first, have you guys Loot Crate surprise a bunch of plastic crap?
I don't need sequels.
No,
I guess
but I
sequels
want
can be
this.
fine sometimes.
I want him to do another show, another series, I should say, in this vein. I'm not interested in his show about young boys in Japan. I don't care. Just do another mystery show, another mystery story, I should say.
Yeah.
I'm also interested in Pluto.
The way
because it's
most
like
characters
Blade
end
Runner.
up is either pretty decisive or it's enough where I can imagine how they will live their life.
In a way-
I have closure for almost anything that happened.
That I think this show kind of takes from Code Geass in that sense.
What?
Because there's a Code Geass movie coming out?
Because you get like good closure at the end.
Oh yeah, totally. Isn't Lelouch... I don't get closure because Lelouch is alive for some reason.
He gets revived in the movie.
Spoilers!
It's literally called Resurrection of Lelouch.
No, I think it's Lelouch of the Resurrection.
Whatever.
Oh my god.
We're gonna watch that movie for
The
this
Luge
podcast.
of
I
the
believe.
Resurrection.
Well, the first one
I
was
mean-
Lelouch of the Rebellion.
I know,
Yeah.
but that made
Oh, okay.
sense at least.
No, it didn't. It's still bad English.
Why? Would it be Lelouch from the
It's
Rebellion?
like Napoleon of the Rebellion.
It should have
Wow.
been called like
The Rebellion.
Lelouch's Rebellion.
Yeah.
Or
But but if there is a rebellion and Lelouch is of it,
Of it.
or from it, I mean that's you can complain about that, but that's still correct grammar, isn't it? Meanwhile, there is no resurrection. He just gets resurrected, so he can't be of the resurrection.
Maybe the resurrection is like an event in which
Yeah,
he
sure.
took
Everyone's
part in.
being revived, and he just happens to be one of them.
I'm so looking forward to the sequel to Monster, Johan of the Resurrection.
God.
I don't know. I'm waiting for that Pluto show to come out.
Yeah, apparently it's still in the making. They're gonna do it. It's gonna be like an OVA series, so
Ooh.
should be pretty high quality.
That's not true. Did you watch the Berserk OVA?
What Berserk OVA?
Those movies.
Those aren't OVA.
What's an OVA? Isn't that just like a long show?
An OVA is just something that's like released on DVD or Blu-ray. OVA stands for original video animation. So, and those typically get like higher budgets than like a show normally would, and they allow
This
for like
is
longer
such an
episodes.
arbitrary distinction.
I know it is, but it's Japan. What can you do?
You gotta buy the Blu-rays, guys.
I mean, I had you watch 0080 War in the Pocket. That was an OVA
Yeah.
series.
Yeah, but the distinction is so... Well, I guess.
Well, OVAs
That was a
are
good
usually
show,
a good
though.
thing.
Well, good OVA, I should say.
An OVA is usually a good thing, in my opinion. Like they're typically pretty high quality. Anyways,
How would you guys rank this show? With your patented ranking systems. Daniel, thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'm not gonna give it. If I were to give it like a number rating, I'd give it like a 9.
Oh, you cut out. What did you say?
Cut out.
I said if I were to give it a number rating, I would give it a 9 out of 10.
A 9 out of 10.
Yes.
What's a 10 out of 10 for Daniel?
Gungrave.
No, I wouldn't give Gungrave a 10.
Fate
Gungrave
Zero?
is also a 9.
Is Fate Zero your perfect 10?
I actually do give Fate Zero a 10.
Really? Better than Monster?
I personally prefer Zero over Monster, yes.
Maybe.
Zero is tighter. See,
My
I
perfect
don't
10 would be
in
like
my
Code
patented
Geass.
ranking system. I don't have the comfort of giving a 9 out of 10. So I think I'd give it a 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
I think it's higher than a 4 out of 5.
I think it's like...
Yeah, I wouldn't. If I was going by like a 5
You can give it a
scale,
4,
I would not feel
stars.
comfortable. I wouldn't feel comfortable giving Monster a 4. That seems too low.
Yeah.
So if I in that situation, yeah, it's much closer to a 5.
I think it's a 10.
Ma.
Oh, Dokuta Tenma.
Oh,
I love it when Johan would say that name in Japanese. Dokuta Tenma. But yeah, I think it's a 10. Do you guys think... I think it's as good as Berserk. It's like, it ties with Berserk as my favorite Japanese crap that I've ever
I
watched.
prefer Berserk.
Really? Why? Explain yourself.
Or
Or not, it's fine.
I mean, I think some of it comes down to preference.
You like the big swords.
Sure, I like
You
the
like
big
the
swords.
clang.
I do. I'm not going to deny that.
You like the sexy action.
Well, the action in the 97 anime wasn't like especially great to look at, to be fair. But I felt like the directing in the 97 anime was like really really strong. While I felt like the directing, like the way that the shots were done in Monster, most of it felt like pretty standard. Like it was just, there were some episodes where I was like, "Oh my god, directing here is like really really fucking good." Like some of the episodes with Martin, the use of like silence in certain moments was like fucking beautiful.
I think
But,
Monster's
like,
strength is really in the writing more than anything else.
Yes, I agree with that. But like looking back on Berserk, I feel like it manages to be a bit more of a, like, at least for me, more of a stronger experience, like as a cohesive whole.
Yeah. 8 years on
Compared
the
to
boat
Monster?
didn't kill your enthusiasm.
Well, I haven't read the manga much.
Really?
Well, that's not true. Actually, no, it's not true. I read up to volume 20. So I did read a significant amount of it, but then I stopped.
Why?
Because I didn't want to reach the point where I had nothing left, and then I had to wait months on end for Kentaro Miura to like stop playing Idolmaster, and then just get around to actually making another chapter. I didn't want to get to that point, so I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna stop.
You know, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure's very own Hirohiko Araki was recently quoted in an interview as having been playing Idolmaster recently. Which is why Part 8 doesn't have an end yet.
Idolmaster is ruining mangaka. This is terrible.
But yeah, it's so good.
First Miura, now Araki. What the hell?
Speaking of Araki, Naoki Urasawa and Hirohiko Araki are designing the mascots for the 2020 Olympics in Japan.
That's very random, but I mean, that's cool, I guess.
Urasawa is doing the real Olympics. Araki's doing I believe the Special Olympics. Shouldn't probably have said real Olympics, but it's on record.
Anyways, I think we're pretty much done. Is there any final words before we head out?
Watch Monster if you haven't. I mean, we spoiled it, but...
Yeah, I mean... I imagine if anyone actually decided to listen to this without having seen Monster, they'd be completely lost.
Yeah,
Like,
because
nothing would make any sense.
We didn't do a good job going through it in any order or chronologically or whatever.
This was a stream of
train of
consciousness for
Yes.
sure.
But
Alright.
yes, wait. Next time we're doing Elven Light, right?
No. We're not.
I thought...
Should we,
But I'm glad
should we
you reminded
introduce our democratic system that we have now?
Oh, yeah. Let's.
No.
Why not?
Because it doesn't matter.
But
No.
well, we should say that outside of our normal podcast episodes, we will be doing episodes like this where we all watch something together. And then, you know, just like with Code Geass, we're going to sit down and probably just make an episode just about that one thing.
It goes me, I choose, Daniel chooses, Bogan chooses, and then you guys choose, right?
No.
Because we're doing Elven Light after Madoka Pantsu Girl, or whatever that show's.
Well,
we
that
never
is
said the
gonna be
audience
the
gets
next
to
one.
choose. Fuck that.
No.
Why are we watching
That is going to be
Elven
the
Light,
next one,
then?
though. We are going to be watching Madoka Magica for the next spoiler cast, because that's what Boken wanted.
I'm afraid it's called Puella Magi Madoka Magica.
Ugh,
No.
this guy.
Calling it Madoka Magica. I'm not... Get over it.
Madoka's Magic, it's probably called in the dub. I'll watch that.
So yeah, luckily that's only like a 12-episode series, so that should come out much sooner than the wait between Code Geass and Monster, because Code Geass was like a 50-episode series. Monster's like a 74-episode
I
series.
feel like I should
Jesus.
get something for that. For the fact
No.
that I'm picking like a 12-episode anime, not like you fuckers.
You can pick something longer.
I'm gonna make you watch Mushishi.
I'm vetoing that, so we don't.
Daniel isn't.
I've already seen Mushishi.
Well,
It's like
I've seen it
Samurai
like 3
Ghostbusters.
times. It's like the best
Well,
show ever.
Wait, do you want the next episode to be on Madoka, or do you want the next one to be on Mushishi?
No, I'm still plotting on Mushishi.
So what are we watching next?
Madoka! What the fuck? This was never a question.
All right. Okay, everyone. Next spoiler cast. Don't worry, we're still releasing normal episodes, but these spoiler casts again, just gonna happen once in a while. It's just to break up the format of the show. So next will be a normal episode.
Actually, will it? Because, okay, so here are the next 3 episodes. Game of the Year, Game of the Decade, Madoka. Will we talk about Game of the Year for an entire episode?
No. That'll just be instead of the essay topic.
Okay.
Game of the Year is not a 2-hour or a 90-minute conversation.
We can
I
turn
agree.
everything into a 2-hour conversation.
You know what's incredible? What amazes me about this conversation is that it's like an hour shorter than our Code Geass conversation.
Well,
That's because Monster is good.
Yeah.
So most of it was just us going like, "Oh man, I love this. Oh man, this was so
There's
good.
also fewer of
I
us,
fucking love
actually.
Johan. What a great character." Code Geass was like
Code
also
Geass
had
was,
an extra.
Code Geass was also that.
No, Code Geass also had an extra person with us. There was 4 of us, and it was mostly just complaining, and it was just like, oh my god, what is this show?
Wait, you didn't like it?
Shock and awe.
Indeed.
I can't believe it. Never would have expected that.
oh, I know. We're gonna, because Madoka is so short, we're also gonna watch the movie, which I've never seen.
Hey, now.
Oh, I've never seen Rebellion. Oh god.
There we
no.
go.
I
Then
don't
we have
know.
to watch the Code Geass movie first.
I'm gonna watch that when it's out.
Why? You
Yeah, it's
don't
not
want
out yet.
What do you mean, why? You keep bringing it up.
Yeah, but you don't want to
shit.
watch it.
Sure I do. I hate myself.
What
All
are
right,
you?
I guess we're watching the series and Rebellion. Oof, I've heard mixed things about Rebellion. I don't know about this.
The
Oh,
Lunge
well.
of the Rebellion.
I think Rebellion is where they go full waifu, but I'm not sure.
Ugh.
I don't know.
Ugh.
Rebellion, I don't know. I've never seen it. I've just heard it's controversial. Like fans are either one way or the other about that movie.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see, I guess.
I have spoken.
All right.
Spoken
Okay.
has spoken. That should be your sign out from now on.
Well, that's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this spoiler cast on Monster. We will be back.
Yours
with Game of the Year.
should be Shintai says goodbye.
I don't go by that anymore.
Wow.
Anyways, this has been the Essays and Espresso crew.
Aesir says later.
Shut up.
I'm
Goodbye,
I'm
everyone.
something
Take
of a
care.
rap god, if you didn't know, Daniel.
Dude, shut up. Just sign out. Goodbye. This episode's over. Sayonara.